Greetings, my peeps, and welcome to the All Things Basketball Podcast with your boy GD. In this episode, my Week 20 recap, a lot has gone on, guys. LeBron steps to Stephen A. Smith during a Laker game. We'll talk about that. Charles Barkley, he calls out Kendrick Perkins at ESPN. We'll talk about that as well. Your buddy of mine, Draymond Green, he lies on Karl Anthony Towns, and when they gave him the truth about it, he stood 10 toes on that lie. Man, we're going to talk about that too. My monthly awards, I'll be doing that as well for February, and a whole lot more. So just sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Okay, guys, it's your boy GD back with the All Things Basketball with GD podcast. And guys, we are in week 21, man. We're almost close to playoffs. You got the NCAA tournaments right around the bend, guys, for the men and the women. Unrivaled is wrapping up, and it's getting crazy over there. I just saw the last game with the Lunar Owls and the Rose, and man, was it getting chippy. So, and actually their playoffs is next weekend. So maybe we'll hit that. We'll see. There's still playoff positions to be had in that league, but nonetheless, a lot to cover. So without any further delay, let's get right into it. And guys, we start as we always do with our players of the week. And in the West, how about this man who could very well be league MVP? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. For the Oklahoma City Thunder, what a week he had. His team played 4 games. He only appeared in 3 of them. But in the 3, good grief, he put in work. For the entire week, in the 3 games, he averaged 44 points. Man. Along with 6.7 assists, 5 rebounds. He shot it from the field 54%. That's par for the course for him. He attempted 25 threes. He made 10, so you like that. And he was perfect from the free throw line. All 28 of his free throws, he sunk. But for the week, like I said, the team went 4-0. In the games he appeared, guys, he played against Houston at home, beat them. He dropped 51 in that game, along with 5 threes. On the road, playing Memphis, he drops 41 points. And then back at home playing Denver, he drops 40 points. So Shai Gilgeous-Alexander continuing his march towards a league MVP. He is your player of the week in the West. And in the East, a repeat, guys, Trae Young of the Atlanta Hawks. He averaged 25.5 points per game, 11 assists, and almost 3 rebounds. His team went 3-1 for the week. They beat the likes of Memphis on the road. Memphis is reeling right now, guys. And they beat Indiana twice. They did lose a game at home to the Milwaukee Bucks. But the Atlanta Hawks, Trae Young, balling right now. And from the field, you know he's not great, only 39%. He attempted 25 threes for the week. He only made 5, guys. Jeez. And then he was nearly perfect from the free throw line. Out of 30 attempts, he only missed 1. So you like that. But Trae Young, your player of the East, player of the week in the East. So with that said, let us move on. Top stories of the week, guys. LeBron does it. He confronts Stephen A. Smith during a game on March 6th where the Lakers played the Knicks. And mind you, the backdrop of this, Stephen A. just getting his $100 million contract from ESPN. He got a contract extension from them that's going to pay him for a very long time. And guys, he was there celebrating because he's got other things outside of First Take happening that's going to be coming down the pike. So he comes to the game riding high, guys. He's sitting there with Larry David and other CEOs and so forth. So after the third quarter, going into the fourth quarter, mind you, the Lakers were down by 8 at that point to the Knicks. LeBron James goes over to Stephen A. Smith, and he has some choice words for him, guys. And it's basically about, and I had to go and look at the clip of the show where it was right after a January 28th game where Bronny James, this was all about Bronny James, by the way, guys. Bronny James, he plays this game against the Philadelphia 76ers. So, you know, he had to match up against the likes of a Tyrese Maxey, who at that point was balling. For the game, he plays early in that game. He actually plays 15 minutes in this game. And my gosh, he went scoreless. He was 0 for 5 from the field. He had 3 rebounds, assists, a steal, and 3 turnovers. And that led a lot of people to kind of come down on Bronny James and his play. So, and you got to understand the critique now of Bronny is a veiled way for people to take shots at LeBron James. Of course, because, you know, the whole situation with how Bronny came to the Lakers, you know, I've chronicled it many times, the draft that they manipulated so that Bronny James ends up with the Lakers with the 55th pick in the draft, telling teams not to draft him and all those things, all to get him on the same team with his father. So, you know, people are going to take that to kind of rail at the kid. So, you know, his struggles were pronounced in this game. I'll talk about that more in a minute. So, Stephen A., not only on his show, on the First Take, he also goes to his podcast and continues the conversation about it. And he makes this plea to LeBron James. Basically, what one could take out of it is that he's being a terrible father to his son. The likes of which, that's a slippery slope, guys. That's a very slippery slope. And for that to take place, you know, and what a lot of people aren't calling into account is not only LeBron James has to account for this, so does his wife, because that's her son too. And so it's funny because somebody was saying that Stephen A. Smith would be glad that it was LeBron and not Savannah who confronted him, because, and then I'm going to put it like this. For those who are married or have been married, you're going to be able to identify. Your wife sees these people, you know, talking bad about the son. And the wife is hot. She's hot about it. You know she's going to complain to her husband. She's going to do that. You know, you hear what they're saying about our son and this and that? So I'm sure Savannah gave LeBron the mandate. If you see that so-and-so, Stephen A. Smith, you give him a piece of your mind, because if you don't, I will. So I'm just saying. So any husband knows a happy wife is a happy life. So let me go deal with this situation and not have to feel the ire of my wife. So that's another way to look at it in the grand scheme of things. So LeBron goes up to him and he basically says, stop effing with my son. That's what Stephen A. Smith says. Stop effing with my son. And then, Stephen A. tried to defend himself saying, as a dad, like, nah, I'm not trying to hear that. Stop effing with my son. And boom, and he walks off. So that's how it went down, guys. So Thursday night that happens. Friday on First Take, in the very first block, he talks about the incident that went viral. Because he said he didn't realize it went viral till he woke up Friday morning. He was getting all these texts and whatnot. And, and you got to understand, this wasn't going to be a quiet situation, Stephen A. And LeBron knows it wasn't going to be a quiet situation. That's why he did what he did when he did it. So for Stephen A. to think this was a private moment at a public game, no. As long as there's camera phones, nothing is private anymore. That's out. So he talks about that. He doesn't say what he fully said. He said he just had some colorful words and all that sort of stuff. And you saw Stephen A. for that show. He was just in a somber mood. And then he went on his podcast. He talked more about it. And, I learned a few things watching the clip of that. He basically spelled it out, what he said. Stop effing with my son, like I said. And, he said as a dad, he understands where he was coming from. And, he said he was sad about the situation because it didn't have to be that way. He said, and here's his thing. He says everybody can call him and do all these sort of things. I think the days of people reaching out to him to kind of say stuff off the record, I think those days are kind of over in that regard. I know some beefs he squashed that way. For instance, the situation with Kyrie, how he was coming down on him during the pandemic and all the stuff he was doing. So he kind of put that to bed. But nonetheless, I did learn some things. The fact that Stephen A. and LeBron haven't really spoken for years. And that led me to, of course, go down a rabbit hole and kind of watch some old episodes of First Take when him and Skip Bayless was on there. And here's the conclusion I came to. I could be coming out of left field with this. Maybe, maybe not. But I think once Skip Bayless left, because he was the resident LeBron hater on First Take and so forth, I think once he left, that left a void as far as somebody railing against LeBron James. So to fill that void, I believe Stephen A. became that. Not the full hater, but, as far as the GOAT talk, of course, he's going to, he said before Jordan, but, he kind of had a feel that he was kind of softening to the fact that LeBron could surpass Jordan eventually, but he's staunching it now that LeBron is number 2 and that's it. Of course, his buddy Shaedon Sharpe, I'll talk about him in a minute, but his Shaedon Sharpe, in his eyes, LeBron James is the GOAT. Of course, on this show, I don't get into that discussion. I'm just bringing it up for the purpose of this conversation. So, but, yeah, so I learned about that. So I think because there was a point where he was in the locker room. Remember, Stephen A used to cover the NBA, so there was points where him and LeBron had exchanges and so forth, and pleasantries and those things. But I think the die was cast when Skip Bayless left the show, and somebody had to be that guy going at LeBron. And I think Stephen A kind of took that mantle. So that's my kind of analysis from a distance. So could I be wrong? Maybe I am. But that's kind of how I'm seeing it. And then another thing I learned is that now current players are now kind of ticked off with Stephen A because of this exchange and because of the situation that took place where he talked about Bronny in such a way. And then remember, I don't know if you guys seen the clip, but in the clip, he's talking a lot about LeBron, but in the background is the game that Bronny had and all the gaffes in the game, all the, turnovers and, him getting kind of schooled by Tyrese Maxey and those guys on the Sixers. So you're talking about LeBron in one sense, but in the background, you got, Bronny getting schooled on the court. So again, I think that really grinded the gears of LeBron to a point where he had to confront him about this. So, and then of course the pleas in that clip that he need to be, as speaking as a father to a father and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so those are the things that I learned about it. Guys like Draymond are being kind of ice cold to Stephen A. I'll talk about Draymond in a minute because, yeah, I've got some stuff to say about him. But, it just reminds me of this quote from The Dark Knight. Great film, one of the top films I ever saw. And this is a line from Harvey Dent. Either you die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And I think that's what has happened to Stephen A. Smith. He is when I was watching the old clips from First Take, they were like, oh, this was the old Stephen A., the one, people like. Now he's metamorphosed into something else entirely, outside of being an absolute egomaniac, but that's a story for another day. But so he has now shifted his roles, if you will. And oh, by the way, he appeared on Skip Bayless's show today, in fact. Skip Bayless now, he has a podcast. So, and his first ever guest on his podcast is Stephen A. Smith. Of course, they enjoyed long years together on First Take, going at each other before Skip moved on to greener pastures because his contract was not renewed with ESPN. So he migrated to Fox Sports, and the rest, as they say, is history. So basically, I think in my final analysis of this, I think it's a case where two things can be true. LeBron protecting his son, I think as a parent, you have to be mindful of that. That's going to happen. But in the same breath, LeBron, I think you really have more of a beef with the way the Lakers are handling Bronny. By that I mean, the constant shuffling between the G League and the pro team. I think he just needs to be concentrated down in the G League, let him get his reps up, let him get his confidence confidence up, and then you bring him up when he's ready. I think the constant shuffling back and forth is not doing him any good. Him sitting on the bench, not doing him much of good either. I think getting regular run down in the G League. I've seen it for myself with the Knicks. A guy like Deuce McBride in his rookie season, he was kind of migrating back and forth. And the Knicks kind of said, you know what, let's stick him down there and let him get some nice run, which he did. And he's kind of developed his game. So I think something like that should happen for Bronny in order for him to be successful. I think he has a promising game in this league. It's just a development. It has to be development for him to make that leap to to be a serviceable player at the very minimum in the NBA. So there's that. So with that said, I'm going to leave that subject alone. So let us move on. Charles Barkley. He's been on a roll lately, guys. I want to play for you actually what he said on the show on Inside the NBA, with his buddies, Ernie Johnson, Shaq, Kenny Smith. I want to play for you what was said by him. This way you get a sense of what's happening here. Give me 1 second as I pull it up. Why do I not have a signal? Oh, because my phone. Okay, let me set it up while my phone boots up. Charles Barkley, there was a segment on First Take with Kendrick Perkins where he says that the Lakers saved the NBA season. In other words, with the Luka trade and all those sort of things, that really saved the NBA season from being, a wash, if you will. So, but Barkley, he, on the other hand, had some choice things to say in that regard about what, I think it's on Instagram where I have it. Yes, it's on Instagram. Give me 1 second as I pull it up. Saved. Okay. Here's all my saved stuff. Oh, yeah, I'm going to play that. But, okay, in essence, Charles Barkley, what he said was, as far as the whole okay, I'm going to have it right now. Yes. All right, so I'm going to play for you his rant. So let's do it. With Yahoo. Okay.
I don't whistle when I walk by the graveyard or anything like that. I don't whistle when I walk by the graveyard. I like that, man. I'm feeling that one. The Lakers are doing great. Got a long way to go. But the reason the season's been going great for the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Y'all just want to talk about the Warriors and the Lakers. They're both doing great. Don't get me wrong. If I turn out to be wrong, I got no problem with that. But y'all are idiots because y'all talk about the Lakers and the Warriors all the time. Y'all don't. The Cleveland Cavaliers have won 12 straight games. The Oklahoma City got the MVP, and they are on fire. Y'all are talking about who's in second place. That's the reason I get pissed. Hey, the Lakers are doing great. I don't mind being wrong. The Warriors are doing great. But Oklahoma City and Cavs been balling for 6 months. Y'all talking about things that had two great weeks. Shut up. I get what you're saying. But you just
all right, that's enough of that. So that's what Barkley had to say in regard to what was said on ESPN, the segment that they had as far as the Lakers have saved the NBA season. And you know something, and then I'm going to read you Kendrick's comments, but Stephen A. basically admitted that the stories, such as the Lakers, such as the Warriors, such as LeBron, such as Steph, they drive ratings. And for better or for worse, First Take is in the ratings business. See, inside the NBA, they can go any route they want to go in terms of the basketball because they're going to get the eyeballs regardless. But First Take, you know, they have to handle basketball. They have to handle football. They squeeze in baseball. They squeeze in hockey. They talk about women's basketball now. And really, when the WNBA season ramps up, you know, they'll be talking about Caitlin Clark all day long. So there's that. But, yeah, so there's... And, you know, they have just for 2 hours, you know, they have maybe about 7 or 8 segments on the show, maybe a little more than that. But so you have to figure out what's going to drive the ratings. So in their mind, the Lakers do it. When you talk about LeBron, that does it. Steph Curry does it. Phoenix, I mean, as bad as they're playing, you know, when you talk about Kevin Durant, that drives ratings. So they're in the ratings business, and they made that clear. So, and you know, Barkley said that, you know, next year there's no more TNT. So basically, they're going to ESPN, but they're bringing their TNT folks with them. So there's that. But actually, I've said it too, guys. I've said it right around, probably around the All-Star game. I was mentioning it somewhere around there. That, you know, that, and then you have, as a reminder too, let me add in that, you know, he always talks about the ridiculous GOAT conversation. Who's better, LeBron or Jordan? You know, I just said it a few minutes ago. I don't cover that on this show. And he says the only people who talk about that is people who run out of stuff to talk about because it's idiotic. I'm kind of in that camp with Barkley in that regard. You know, I point to different eras. I point to different situations. You know, Jordan played in a much different NBA than what LeBron plays in. So, you know, we can have an eras conversation, but I don't think we can have a greatest of all time across the board. I don't think we can have that discussion, but that's just me. So, and then lastly, to kind of tie a bow on this, I do want to, oh, by the way, Shaq wants Steph to be in that conversation now as far as the GOAT. So then here's somebody who wants to add another layer to it. But here is what Kendrick Perkins said. I'll pull up the clip. Give me 1 second. I did a screenshot of it. I know that. That's not it. Give me 1 second. Yeah, I think it's prior to this. Yes, here it is. Now, here's what Kendrick Perkins said on Twitter or X, because According to Stephen A., he was hotter than fish grease. So here's what he said. Hey, NBA on TNT, might want to tell that senior citizen Charles Barkley that I'll be around. When he sees an idiot or fool in person, make sure he keep that same energy. He can come playing with me if he want to, and I'ma address his, you know what, like the numbers on a house, straight from the 409 homeboy, and we bar none and fade all. Hashtag Texas boy. So Kendrick Perkins laying down the gauntlet that if you want all the smoke, he got the smoke for you. So there's that. So so there you go. So that's as far as that beat go. But in a lot of ways, I agree with Charles Barkley in that regard. It's a lot of LeBron, Steph, Lakers, Warriors talk, and not much else. You do have Cleveland Cavaliers that's balling right now, absolutely balling, won 14 straight and counting. You have OKC doing their thing in the West. You got other teams that's on the come up. Houston, I've been talking about them. Memphis, they're kind of sliding now. Denver's back in the hunt. Lakers are playing great now. They're playing good. Warriors have gotten hot with the addition of Jimmy Butler. And then in the East, the Knicks, they're up there. Boston's being Boston. Knicks is right there with Milwaukee kind of in sight of the Knicks, but, now with the injury, I'll talk about that later. But, it's could ESPN cover some more stuff besides the obvious? Of course they could. Of course they could. But, they're all about ratings, guys. That's the bottom line for them. So it is what it is. All right, so let's leave that story alone. Next one, your buddy and mine, Draymond Green. Oh, I've been waiting to talk about this. On his podcast, he does his podcast, of course. Now he has Baron Davis with him on the podcast. On his podcast, he said that Karl Anthony Towns did not play in the March 4th game between Golden State and the Knicks. That was at Madison Square Garden. He was listed as personal reasons. Nobody knew what the reasons were at the moment. I guess those within the organization knew, but it was kind of listed as personal. Draymond goes to say that it was because he didn't want to face Jimmy Butler. Now, let's rewind the clock back to 2018 when they were both teammates, and Jimmy Butler wasn't happy in Minnesota. He thought those guys there were kind of lax. That's when they had Karl Anthony Towns. They had Andrew Wiggins on that squad. And Jimmy Butler, he kind of called these guys out for being kind of soft and those sort of things. And that's where he has to practice, where he got the bench guys to play the starters, and they end up whipping the starters. So this took place nearly 7 years ago, guys. Newsflash for Draymond Green. They played 9 games since that incident. And oh, by the way, Karl Anthony Towns just played him in October of last year. So why would he be running from him? That's number one. And oh, by the way, in that game, they could not do anything with Karl Anthony Towns. The Knicks won that game. It was in Miami, by the way. The Knicks won that game. He played 38 minutes, dropped 44 points. He was absolutely efficient from the field. I remember watching this game. Bam Adebayo, who's a very good defender, could not do a thing with Karl Anthony Towns in that game. And he had 13 rebounds. So what is Draymond even talking about? And so much so that, in fact, I want to play you the sound. It's better I play you the sound. So this is the sound as far as I'll get the sound of Draymond saying his nonsense, and then hang on one second, and then I will play you what. Hang on 1 minute. I guess I ain't gonna see it here, huh? Okay. All right. So here's what I will do. Let me go back to Instagram because I believe. Okay. Here it is.
We'll say he didn't play because for us, I would say they ain't had cat. You know, some would say he didn't play because Jimmy was in the building. You know, it's like that. You know, I'll tell you, I saw Cat at the game, and it's always love. I got mad love for the OG. His pops is an incredible man. But yeah, they said Cat ain't played because Jimmy came into town, and you know him and Jimmy had the infamous practice in Minnesota. Oh yeah. And so I don't know. That's a conspiracy theory. Says he was hurt. I don't know what was hurt. I didn't look that deep into it to figure out like what his injury was or nothing like that. But shit like that be happening, bro. That's the history of the league. Shit like that be happening. Right, guy?
So first things first. You put this story out there without even verifying why he was out for that game. So right there, that messes up your credibility. Your credibility is shot because you just put stuff out there in the ether. So there's that. And shout out to my guy, CP the Franchise, because he railed against this on his show, Knicks Fan TV. He railed against it, and good for him. And he actually pointed out something that I'm going to bring up in a minute. Give me 1 second. And then now here's his exchange when he's being called out on his nonsense. Listen to this.
You've seen your reaction today to your comments about Cat? No. And that's what the circumstances were. No. No. What's the circumstance? Apparently he said he was at a funeral for a family friend. Oh man, that's unfortunate. I'm sorry to hear that. That sucks. But my comments that I made was what I heard was this. That's what I heard. So I do send my well wishes to him and his family. You know, none of us, it's inevitable. We all experience death in one way or another, and we'll all experience it in the same way one day. So it's unfortunate. You never wish that on anybody, but the Draymond Green show with Baron Davis must go on. So I definitely wish them well and wish their family well and grieving. Because we all go through that, and it's never easy for anyone. The Draymond Green show with Baron Davis will go on.
So you hear him twice talk about his little funky podcast. You got called out on your BS, Draymond. You got called out on it instead of being a man and saying, okay, I was wrong about the situation. You talked about your funky podcast. You's a sucker. You are a sucker, man. And you put that crap out there. Are you a basketball player with a podcast, or are you a podcaster who happens to play basketball? Make up your mind, Draymond. What are you? What are you? Putting that nonsense out there. Instead of manning up and saying, I'm wrong, you talked about your funky little podcast. Shame on you. And shame on Chris Broussard. Chris Broussard, he took the mantle and ran with it. Now, Chris Broussard is somebody I respected for a long time. Basketball insider, all the things. But when he went there, I was like, man, listen. So I'm going to play for you what he said, which I absolutely fell out my chair. Listen to Chris Broussard on First Things First. Listen to what he had to say in regard to that. Go back. Hang on, guys. Apparently, it's not going to let me do it. But, yeah, these people have to be called out. And you have to do it. You have to do it. You have to do it, guys, because otherwise they're going to push this nonsense out there. They're going to push it out there, the BS, the crap. They're going to put it out there and let this stuff rock. And I, for one, ain't having it. This podcast here, I don't give y'all stuff willy-nilly. I check sources. I double-check sources. I do all those things before I come on here and say a whole bunch of stuff, because I know that I'm accountable for the things that I'm saying. That much I know. Whatever's put out there, I'm responsible for. So anything I'm giving you, I fleshed it out, guys. Because why? Because that goes a long way as far as the credibility of this show. So for me to obviously I'm not getting it here. Seems like my internet is messing up. All right. So in essence, he took the Draymond story and reported it like it was fact. You can't do that. You cannot do that. And shame on Chris Broussard, who's a journalist. He's a journalist and he's doing this sort of stuff. And that leads me to say this. True sports journalism these days are dead. It's dead, guys. We are in the hot take business now. Unless it's a hot steaming take, you hear it from the Rob Parkers of the world, another person who was a respected journalist. Now he's in hot take business. So that's where we are now, guys, as far as journalism goes. It's a hot take that we want to go viral. That's the thing that we're looking at right now. And I, for one, cannot stand it. That's why I have this podcast, so you guys don't have to go through the nonsense. You get the real here. That's all I'm saying. You get the real here. So, again, shame on Draymond for putting such false information out there, and shame on Chris Broussard for not checking those sources before he reports something like that. You can't do it like that if you want to be respected in this field. I'm just saying. So with that said, I'm going to leave it there. All right, guys. So let us move on. A lot of time we spent on that stuff. I'm going to save the monthly awards for now. There's some other important stuff I need to get to. Let's get to the injuries, guys. Speaking of LeBron James, he's going to be out 1 to 2 weeks, guys, with a groin injury. And that happened during March 8th game against the Celtics at their home. at crypto. So it happened late in the game. So LeBron, they're going to err on the side of caution, guys, as far as that goes. And then, mind you, lump that with Luka Doncic, who's was having back issues in that same game, but he toughed it out. So you got LeBron now, who's going to miss time, and then you got Luka with his back flaring up. So the Lakers are in a precarious situation right now. They're at the 2 spot in the West. So can they afford to tumble a little bit? Maybe they got kind of a cushion there, but you got to be careful. They're already without Roy Hachimura for this road trip, so because he's hurt. So you gotta have to rely on Dalton Knecht, who you almost traded to Charlotte. Thank goodness he's here now. So naughty there. Dorian Finney-Smith, you still have him. And then also, guys, you have Jarrett Vanderbilt as well. So you got some guys there. You still have Austin Reeves. He's going to have to step up in this offense. So you got some guys there. So we'll see what happens. But tough blow for the Lakers, who are riding high. JJ Redick's doing an absolutely amazing job on his first year with the Celtics. So, hey, this is where the rubber meets the road, guys. We'll see what happens as far as that goes. So you have that. Jalen Brunson, tough blow for the Knicks, guys. He's out 2 weeks with an ankle sprain, and he did that late in that Laker game, the one where, the LeBron confronted Stephen A. on March 6th, that loss that they had to the Lakers. And that happened late in the fourth quarter, guys, where that happened. So now the Knicks are going to have to go with the likes of a Deuce McBride, Cameron Payne, and possibly Tyler Kolek. I'm of the mindset, I like Deuce a lot. I like Deuce McBride, but I think he still needs to be your sixth man coming off the bench. I think you need to put the offense either in the hands of Payne or, if worse come to worse, Kolek, because these guys are more pass-first point guards who can set up the offense. Deuce McBride, he's kind of in the same vein as a Tyrese Maxey type guard. So I think you still need to bring him off the bench, but you need a floor general to be in there while Jalen Brunson's out. Because you got plenty of offense, guys. You got plenty of offense. You got a Mikal Bridges. This is go time, Mikal. This is go time. Somebody needs to step up. Why not it be you? Karl Anthony Towns will do what Karl Anthony Towns does. OG, we're gonna need some more offense. OG, you get paid a good chunk of change. Now we need your offensive game now until he gets back. So they should be able to right the ship, but a lot's going to depend on Thibodeau. Who's he going to play in those Brunson minutes? Because that's going to be important, guys. So, and campaign of the past has shown that he can man the point guard position when called upon. And this is why we brought him here, guys. So let him go out there, roll the ball out there, and see what happens. So there's that. Jaren Jackson Jr. for the Memphis Grizzlies. He's going to be out from week to week, guys. He has an ankle sprain, and it's a grade 2. So he's going to be evaluated with each week. This happened on March 3rd in a loss to the Atlanta Hawks, a home loss. So Jaren Jackson Jr., here's your second candidate for Defensive Player of the Year going down. So kind of opening the door for Evan Mobley to get it now that you have this. But so down he goes. In his place, you'll need a Brandon Clark. Mind you, he's kind of a year removed from a major knee injury that he had, so you're going to have to treat him with kid gloves. And then you still have Santi Aldama, he's a guy who could come in and fill in, whether it be the center position or power forward. So you got two guys who can man the fort until Jaren Jackson Jr. gets back in the fray. But right now, the Memphis Grizzlies are reeling right now, so they need somebody to step up in his place, man. The offense you might be able to replace, but this defense, that's going to be rough. So we'll see what happens as far as that goes. Tyrese Maxey, I was just talking about him. He's out 3 games and counting, guys, with a back sprain. And he suffered this on the same day as Jaren Jackson Jr. And oddly enough, I had them on the same fantasy team, and both of them went down in that game. I was like, oh, wow. So that happened in a loss to the Portland Trailblazers, actually a home loss. So Tyrese Maxey, I think at this point in the season, you got a little more than a month to go. I say just shut him down. Just shut him down. You got guys that can fill in. Quintin Grimes, who's been playing great since he's got to Philadelphia. So you can play him in there. Justin Edwards, you have him. Alani Walker the fourth. You have those kind of guys there. I would go more Grimes and Edwards, because these are young pieces there that you may need for the future. So, I would just say, you know what? It's not worth it. Shut Maxey down. I'm just saying. So, and then Domantas Sabonis. Word has just came down today. He'll be reevaluated actually on March 11th. So, and that's the hamstring injury that he has. He's been out 4 games so far. He suffered that, guys, on March 1st in a win at Houston. He did it in the first minute of the game, oddly enough. So, Domantas Sabonis, I think the Sacramento Kings, they're kind of, seeing where the wind is blowing. So maybe he's back this week. We'll see. They're being cautious with Sabonis because, that's your guy. So there's that. Norman Powell of the LA Clippers, he'll be reevaluated in 10 days, guys. And he has a hamstring injury. So he's missed 4 games thus far. So I think the Clippers, they want to be cautious with him as well. Playoffs are right around the corner. They're right in the thick of it. So you still have Kawhi, who you're going to have to load manage him. So you got guys like Bogdanovich. You have guys like that in the fray there. So you got some pieces there. You can kind of fill in until these guys get right and ready for the playoffs. So, Clippers just being cautious as they always are. So there's that. And then the last injury I wanted to talk about, this is Reed Sheppard, guys, of the Houston Rockets. He's out for a month with a thumb injury. And this happened on March 6th in a win at the New Orleans Pelicans. Why am I talking about Reed Sheppard? Reed Sheppard was the 3rd pick in this last draft, guys. In this draft that just passed, he was the 3rd pick. And, at the top of the stories, I was talking about Bronny James. No one has any smoke for Reed Sheppard, who's been bouncing in and out from the G League to the pro team, back and forth all season long. I don't think he's played 20 games as a Houston Rockets. In fact, he was in the Rising Stars game as a G Leaguer. So, everybody has all the smoke for Bronny James and none for this guy who's the 3rd pick in the draft. who's making a buku more money than Bronny is. So where's the smoke for this guy? But I understand, I get it. It's LeBron's son, so y'all want to pick on him. So there's that. And then of course you want to get at LeBron for, creating the situation. So, but I'm just saying, Reed Sheppard here, he's been an absolute bust. I mean, there's no two ways to say it. But you guys go after Bronny James. There's that. So with that said, guys, boy, we went long on this one. There was some milestones and stuff I wanted to talk about, but I'll just save that. Maybe I'll pack it into another show. So anyhow, I thank you for listening as always. All things basketball with GD, that's me.com. Of course, you go on the website, everything is there. All my full episodes, my shorts are there. Guys, my support buttons, I have the scrolls throughout the show, guys. This is a listener-supported podcast. Your dollars make this show go. So give to the show. All this content here. We talked about LeBron rolling up on Stephen A. We talked about Barkley going at Kendrick Perkins. We talked about Draymond and his false information he puts out there. I bring all this content to you guys. I curate it myself, and I bring it right to you. So help out the show. There's a few ways you could give. Buy me a coffee, PayPal. My Cash App is there, $GD, that sports dude. Again, my Cash App, $GD, that sports dude. And then also my Spotify donate button is there as well. Guys, I'm on YouTube. I'm there. Podcast platforms, all of those, including Apple. Leave reviews, likes, put likes there wherever you see my content, guys. As far as socials, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, fan base, I'm here and there. Facebook, not so much. Twitter, no way, Jose. So there's that. LinkedIn, I post my videos on there as well. So thank you for listening, guys. Your listenership is so important to the show. I value each and every one of you guys. All right. Until then, we will talk soon. Take care.